talking about today is the high percentage leg locks, and that's not just purely advertising rhetoric. When you watch sparring and you watch competition, I think there's 4 leg locks that you see again and again. You see the straight ankle lock, the heel hook, the toe hold, and the knee bar. I've already done a video on the knee bar, so we'll knock that one off the list for today. There's lots of other locks. There's hip locks and knee compressions and shin locks, and I like them all, and I use a lot of them, but they're not as high percentage, and you don't see them as often as you see the 3 that we're going to talk about today. I think that foot locks are the great equalizer. If you're fighting somebody who's much bigger than you or much more experienced than you, you've probably got the best chance of tapping them with a foot lock or a heel hook or a toe hold. Why is this? Well, first of all, it's a small joint. It's kind of like the wrist. The person might be able to bicep curl 120 pounds, but their wrist is going to be smaller, and similarly, their ankle is going to be smaller than their knee. Also, people aren't as adept at moving their feet as they are their wrist. So their ability to escape and defend will be less. And finally, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu traditionally has a bit of a myopia towards the ankle and the feet. They were considered low-class techniques, and you can use this to your advantage because people aren't as good at defending them as they are the armbar, the triangle, the choke. So you're going to a bit of a blind spot, and you can use that to your advantage when you're fighting someone really good. So my friend Don has agreed to come out and help me show this material today. First thing we're going to cover is leg positions, because it's the legs, not the arms, that make leg locks possible. If Don's back here, and I'm just leg locking him here, I might maybe get a leg lock if he has absolutely no idea of how to move. But as you see, as I'm cranking it here, he's lifting his body. I have to somehow control his knee to his hip to take the slack out of that system. Here, no leg lock. Here, now that I've isolated the knee and the thigh, and to some extent the hip, when I arch here, this has nowhere to go. It's just like with an armbar. If I'm armbarring Don, I'm attacking the elbow, I have to control the shoulder and the chest. If I'm armbarring him here, he moves. Come back, please. If I'm controlling the joints above the joint that I'm attacking, the shoulder and the chest, not that that's a joint, here I have the armbar. So you have to control using your legs to prevent him from escaping, standing up, countering you, and to take the slack out of the system so that you can attack the joint in question, which today is the ankle. So some terminology I'm going to use is the outside leg and the inside leg. If I'm attacking Don's right leg and I'm standing here, this is my outside leg, this is my inside leg. My left leg is my outside, my right leg is the inside. They serve different functions. This foot usually will come over top of the leg in some manner. It'll come over top of the thigh. Some people like to push the body. Even the people who pinch here, right on the hip, it still controls the hip. It still keeps him away from me. It makes it a little bit harder for him to come towards me. Don, trying, I can push with this foot here if I have to. My inside leg does some other jobs. It also keeps him away. By keeping this knee in the middle, it's hard for him to come towards me because my knee hits his chest. If I was trying to do it like this, he could come as close as he wants. No more leg lock. It pinches. This is a very strong pinching leg with the knee down, and that's probably a common mistake that beginners have. They're loose here. And finally, this leg has to watch out, because if it comes through, which I do sometimes, I'm opening myself up to leg locks, heel hooks. Come under the heel. There. Even here, there's heel hooks available to him. So you have to be quite aware of what your inside foot is doing and the inside leg is doing as well. One other piece of terminology. This is sort of a straight position. His leg is coming straight. If it's crossed over here, this is a crossed position, it does change a few of his counters, it changes a few of my attacks. We'll go into that. This is a crossed position. One position I don't like at all is a reciprocal crossed position. As you can see, my right leg is over his right leg and his right leg is over my right leg. Anything I can do to him, I don't know if he can do better, but he can do the same. We can be here with a double leg lock. We can be heel hooking him, he can heel hooking me. He can start attacking this foot. I can start attacking his foot. It's try to stay away from this reciprocal position. If you do find yourself in this reciprocal position with which looks exactly identical from a view up above, you have to move fast. Usually the first person to start an attack is the winner, and it's very difficult for me to stand up because he can knock me down. It's difficult for him to stand up. You're going to be here for a while, so move fast if you end up in this reciprocal position. So in the wild world of leg locks, when you're putting on a leg lock or catching one in mid-scramble, you never know exactly where you're going to end up, and you can't guarantee that your opponent won't move. So what I want to do is show you 5 different alignments of your body and his body, which will cover the majority of positions that you end up in. They won't cover them all, but if you learn these, you'll be off to a really good start. So in the first one, I am lying on my side. I have his left leg, and I'm on my right side. I'm pinching my knees. My foot is on his hip. The ball of my foot is either on the ground or ready to go on the ground if we roll this way. This is position 1. I'm pinching my knees as much as I can to isolate this part of his leg from the other parts of his leg. This instep here can go in one of 2 places. It can go right in the middle and push away a bit, or it can flare out. It can either go up here or here. You'll see why you want to do this in the counters and recounters section. I don't want to be too close. This is a common mistake. See, I'm all scrunched up and my heel is touching my own bum. Here he can grab onto me. He can control my wrist. He can also cross his legs behind me right here, which is problematic to deal with. So this is position 1. Position 2 is when I sit back and the bellies are up to the sky. If I'm here, I generally don't want to be here, but sometimes you don't have a choice. I have to have my foot here to stop him from coming up on me. Otherwise he can just come up on top of me really easily. Come on. And life is bad. Or, if I control both legs, I can sit back, belly up to the sky. If I control this leg as well, it's very difficult for Don to stand up. You can't get a leg underneath him. So that's position 2. Position 3 is similar, except as I come here, I move my butt close to Don's butt. See how this bends, this knee? We're straight here, straight-ish. As we move, I move my butt close to Don's butt. This bends his knee. I push this leg out, and now I can snake my top leg over. I can hide it underneath Don's knee. This foot, my free leg can go in one of several places. It can go over. I've now one leg's under, one leg's over. It's a very secure position. It can go under here as well, so both feet are here. Or it can go in sort of a prayer position. Buddha bless you, if you've ever watched any Kung Fu movies. In the 4th position, I'm still attacking Don's left leg, but instead of being sort of between his legs, essentially, I'm over his leg. We're here, and my outside leg comes over the top. I've come over top of this leg. This foot can be here, which you use if there's a lot of heel hooks, or if heel hooks are legal, or if you know he's a heel hook guy. If it's just straight Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you don't have to worry about heel hooks, I always like to bring it here because it locks this knee tighter in place. The fifth position, we continue rolling and we end up belly down. Now it's hard to say exactly where you're going to be when you're belly down, but it's a good place to be. In this case, I've got one foot under his hip, and this foot, on your belly please, and this foot is lodged across the back of the leg that I'm not attacking. So we're here, and here. Belly down's a good place to be. He can't grab me, because the ground is blocking him, and he can't stand up, and I have nothing stopping me from arching as far back as I want. Some other variations of belly down would include sitting up, trying to sit on his lower back, or just having one shin over his knee here. So as you see, I can be on my right side, I can be on my butt, I can be turned a little bit, I can be turned a lot, or I can be all the way belly down. Each of those 5 positions has its strengths and advantages, and he has a different job to do to get out of them. There are, of course, lots and lots of other variations of how to tie up your legs with his, and positions that your body ends up in. There's some where you're standing on the thigh, or you're sitting back and you're pushing the thigh here, or you triangle your legs. They're good. They're not as common. And I encourage you to start with the 5 that I've shown you, and then branch out and experiment with the others. If you find one that really works for you though, go with it. There's lots of other variations, and I encourage you to try them. Ideally, you want to be in a power position. Your knees roughly at 90 degrees and your hips roughly at 90 degrees, and then arch from there. You won't always be able to pull off those exact angles because you do have to take into account where you're gripping, how long his legs are, what he's doing to you, but that's your starting point. If I'm here, my knees are roughly at 90 degrees and my hips are about 90 degrees. From here, I can arch quite a distance here. If I let go of his foot and keep on arching, I could take his foot a considerable distance off his leg. To understand the ankle lock, you have to sort of understand the mechanisms of damage. The first mechanism of damage is, see the Achilles tendon right here? Is the pressure up against it here from your forearm. It's sort of a crushing of the back of the foot. The next mechanism of damage is a hyperextension of the ligaments and connective tissue at the front of the foot, and also the tendons were here. And finally, if you were to crank really hard, you'd get the little bones in the ankle and the forefoot separating, and you'd get tearing within there as well. You can influence whether it's damage at the back of the ankle, damage to the front of the ankle, by varying your grip one way or the other. It's rarely going to be a one or the other situation. You're rarely going to be able to do it so precisely that you're only attacking one part of the foot. It depends a bit on his build and his pain tolerance. But if you understand that those are the 2 primary mechanisms, then with the third mechanism being the foot blowing apart, this will help you with how to apply your ankle lock. We're going to talk about the grips now. So my legs are going to be in a bad position. The first, most common, is a cup and saucer. This is a fist, a cup, your hand, the saucer, they go together like this. Here and here, this hand goes high on your body. One of the most common ankle lock mistakes is to have this down here. The foot comes out. If this is high, the foot doesn't come out. You generally want to place the sharp part of your wrist, the bony part here, right towards the heel. You can see the little wrinkles that form here. That's where you want your forearm to be. You don't want it up here. You want it right here where the wrinkles form. Another way you can conceptualize that is you put your hand up high and you slide back until it stops. It's like a ring sliding down a rope, and the rope's got a big knot in the bottom. That's where that ring stops. We're here, we're there. So you want it to be right at the bottom of the foot. The toes catch on the armpit, the lat, here. Now I've got a control point here and a control point here. Now I can lock the leg. How deep this forearm goes, here to here, is a question of preference and debate. Some people like it really tight. The argument here is that it's harder for the person to escape his foot. You've got more control, and when you flex back, you're going to be mostly stretching the top of the foot, because underneath his foot, you've got the relatively soft part of your forearm. Other people, and I generally fall in this category, like to use the sharp part of the wrist. Right here, right on there. You're taking the smallest, hardest, least soft area, and you're using that here. Now you can crush the bottom of the foot and hyperextend the top of the foot at the same time. There is a bit more room here, so you have to flap your elbow back. If you're here, out to the side, he can twist his leg and get out. That's made a little bit harder if I flap my elbow back. So I'm actually making this kind of shape, not here. However, in reality, regardless of whether you like it with your wrist or deep in your elbow, there's going to be times you're using the middle of your forearm, deep forearm, shallow forearm, because you're scrambling around. It's not a static situation. All of them will work, especially so long as you keep this high. A big mistake is to start here, start it high, and then as I arch back, to drop this. Not only does his foot escape, but I'm giving him room. Whereas if I'm here and I arch back, he has to come with me. A third method, this is more common if you look at old judo books and old Brazilian jiu-jitsu pictures, is the figure four. You bring this arm around his leg, so it's going to be a bit deeper, and put your hand on your own forearm, put your other hand over his shin. Because this turns your forearm from using the sharp part of your forearm to the flat part of your forearm, and because it tends to be a bit deeper, you know that that's going to attack mainly the top of the foot. There's going to be some pressure on the bottom Achilles, but it's mostly on the top. So that's your figure four. If you're wearing a gi, you have another option, and that's to feed your own lapel into your hand. This allows you to use this hand to fend off his grips, to grip fight. Maybe you only have one hand. Maybe he's got your sleeve, and he's using this to defend. I'm going to reach up, grab my own lapel. This anchors my wrist, and now I'm going to apply the lock. You can use that same principle if you're not using a gi. Because sometimes you'll only have one hand. Maybe this hand is doing something else. Maybe this hand he's got it. Maybe he's grabbing it. We're here, he's grabbing it. Maybe I'm using this hand to base. Maybe I'm using this hand to hold his leg here. I can't always have two hands. If you have one hand, you can still almost do the cup and saucer. You put it as high up as you can, you lodge it against your body, and now hopefully all your other mechanics will be right. My main goal is not to have this fist slide down like that as I arch. It's a lot easier to hold something in place than it is to bring it up. I'm just isometrically holding it in place. There's also the friction against my body. I'm going to quickly show you a couple novelty grips based on using this forearm rather than this forearm. If you understand all the principles involved of foot position and body distance and body position and mechanics, they're very simple to apply, but you don't see them very often. The first, instead of going here, you come through with the other hand, place that hand on the bicep. And now you do everything the same, control the leg, and you arch. You can also, instead of going here to here, go finger to finger and use the back of your forearm on this toes to hyperextend that foot. Why am I showing you these variations? It's because it'll get you into the idea of the principles that you're trying to hyperextend the foot. You're trying to crush the Achilles rather than you must get this certain hand position. If you play with these novelty grips a little bit, you'll see that they're just locking the ankle in exactly the same way. You're just substituting one forearm for the other. It's the same mechanics, it's the same mechanisms of injury, and it's the same technique essentially. A very common mistake when you're doing ankle locks is you're in the person's open guard, you get the grip here, you're all set up, and now you go back. This person's seen it coming miles back. So, typically, you're going to be going back without having the ankle loop, maybe looping it on the way down. However, now you've hit the ground, say, and we're in this position, and I don't have that arm looped. He might be keeping his ankle a bit tight on my hip, trying not to give me this room to get in. He knows that's what I want, and he's going to be killing space here to do it. How do I get my hand in there? There's a couple of different ways. The first is to shrimp my hips back a bit. If I'm here, I'm trying to get my hand in, if I shrimp my hips back, it creates a little hole behind his leg. Right here, it's tough for me to bring this hand up. Here, if I shrimp back, it pops through quite easily. And then I grab and apply. Another method to get this hand around his ankle is by grabbing his knee, grabbing the hamstring, the tendons on the back of the knee, turning his foot over. I turn his foot over this way. See how that flares out his heel a bit? That creates some room. So we're here. I would drop this leg so you can see. Pull here. Then it's just a little adjustment to bring his leg in. They're not mutually exclusive methods. You can use them together. It might be here. Turn the leg. Use that to get in behind the ankle just a little bit. Then use your hip adjustment to make the room and get your hand through. So once you've got your grip, your leg position, your body position, all those things squared away, now it's time to apply the ankle lock. To apply it, you bridge your hips forward and you move your head back. Basically a bridge, like I said before. If I'm in this position, I like putting my shoulder on the ground, pushing away with the legs, and someone calls my name. There. If we're in this position here, I go the other way. Someone calls my name. Hello? I go that way. If we're in the fourth position I talked about, where I fall over and go here, I adjust, I get to the right position, his leg is trapped, how I bridge. If I'm belly down, here, I bridge. So with the ankle lock, it's the hips moving forward and the head moving back that applies it. Let's take a look at some of the most common mistakes I see when people are applying the ankle lock. Number one mistake is I'm in someone's open guard and I lock this on long before I intend to go for this leg. Unless I'm trying to psych them out, I shouldn't be using this control before I apply it. It gives him way too much notice. I either apply it as I'm falling or after I've fallen. Second mistake I see is people trying the ankle lock on the calf. They're trying to turn it into a calf lock. Their forearm is much too high. If I'm super strong or he's super wimpy, that might work. Or if he has osteoporosis and the bone breaks. But applying it here is a non-starter. That just doesn't work in real life. Another common mistake is having bad leg control. Going back like this without controlling his hips with my legs, or lying here with my legs straight. This isn't a power position. I might get it, especially if I'm super tall, but legs straight doesn't work for ankle locks. And a final common mistake I see is not having any idea about the recounters. If I'm here, and if Don stands up on me, what do I do here? Go back, please. If I'm trying a heel hook, and Don spins on me, what do I do? You've got to know the attack, you have to understand the counter, and then you have to understand how to counter that counter or recounter it in order to have any chance of applying these techniques at a high level. Ankle locks and foot locks are not a substitute for learning to pass the guard. And that's a common mistake that beginners make. They learn a leg lock and then they basically never learn to pass the guard. Of course, when you first learn them, you're going to go crazy on them, you're going to try them at every opportunity, and that's good, that's part of the learning process. But once you have some proficiency with it, it's almost like you have to dial back your foot locks and dial back your leg locks for a while and then concentrate on passing the guard. Eventually, once you've brought your foot lock level up and your guard passing level up, the two will help each other. You can use the ankle lock to set up the guard pass, and you can use your guard pass to set up the ankle lock. So rather than being antagonistic techniques, they actually work together to improve your game. If he's a really skilled open guard player, and I start harassing him with this, he's going to be quite wary about using open guard. It's going to change his perspective pretty significantly. If I'm here, and I have no intention of leg locking him, but I loop it here, typically his response will be to pull this leg into his chest, and often they'll even retract this leg. They're not going to leave this out. It's like this allergic reaction. From here, you can pin his legs. If his legs are out, they can move, they can push, they can pull. If I'm here and he retracts them, now I can start working some of my guard passes. Coming here, coming into the knee mount. If I'm here, he pulls back. I can come in, drive him over, work to the back. So ankle locks have a place in passing the guard, even if you have no realistic hope of catching them with the ankle lock itself. Now I'm going to talk about the grips for the heel hook. Let's say I'm in a basic ankle lock position, facing up to the sky. I'm going to take my hand that is not looping his leg, and I'm going to grab behind the calf or grab at the knee and try and roll his foot. I'm trying to roll it in order to expose the heel. See how the heel, he's helping me now, but it really flares out. I'm going to grab here and roll the heel. The other thing this does is it holds it against my body, making it less likely for it to move around. Leaving his toes in my armpit, I'm going to move my elbow back here. I try not to do this as a big movement here because he'll escape his foot. I want to make sure that his toes stay in my armpit. So we're here. Now I move my wrists to the heel, palm to palm, pinch down here, and now I've got the grip for the heel hook. There are some variations for how to grip for the heel hook. This is a very common one, very powerful. Sometimes you catch it in the crook of the elbow instead. It's not as powerful. A couple reasons why it's not as powerful. One, if I'm here, you see how I have to turn further? I have to turn a little bit further. This is like winding up a bit further when you're at bat. Here, I can twist. But if I'm here, now I can twist even further. So the wrist at the heel is superior to the elbow at the heel. But sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you end up here, you can still do it. If the guy's super flexible, or if you're in some weird position, sometimes this doesn't give you enough power. Now you take your other hand and bring that under the heel. It's called a power heel hook. And from here, I can rip his foot completely off. There's a couple other variations. There's a steering wheel where I push his toes and pull his heel with my hands. And even if you do a figure 4 from this position, it's essentially a heel hook because you're rotating the foot like this. So the gripping options, once again, you're here, you pull the knee, you keep this tight, wrist on heel, elbow on heel, not so good. Far wrist on heel, the power heel hook. Steering wheel, push the toes, pull the heel, and then if you shift your hips a bit, you can apply a toe hold, which in this configuration is essentially the same as a heel hook. With the heel hook, I'm trying to isolate the knee and the hip so that this part can't rotate, and then I'm trying to rotate the foot. I'm trying to rotate either the toes in or the toes out while holding this steady. Let's say I'm in the third position we talked about. I move my butt close, I bring my foot over, and I trap him here. I pinch my knees. Now I'm controlling his knee up to his hip. That can't roll. I bring my elbow back and I catch his heel here, palm to palm. To apply it, I do two things. I bridge my hips forward and I bring his heel up to my face. If I do them together, he taps almost right away. There's two mechanisms here. One is rotating the foot and that twisting the knee. The other, turn a bit here, is rotating it and then pushing it this way. If you do those two motions together, I'm in the fourth leg position. Trap, come here, palm to palm. I can tap him just by arching my hips forward, and I can tap him by bringing his heel to my nose. And I can tap him by doing the two together, which is what I should do if I'm doing this in anger. And he taps almost immediately. You can, for a heel hook, you can rotate his foot two directions. You can rotate his toes in or his toes out. Generally speaking, the toes in is more common, the toes out is more powerful. If I'm here, and I'm hooking him here, this is a rotating the toes in. We're here, right, I'm rotating his foot this way. Let's say I end up in a crossed position. We're here, and I come this way. This is a rotating the toes outward. If I'm applying an outward rotation, and he's rotating my foot in at the same time, it's not a sure thing, but I will usually win. Similarly, if Don has my leg crossed, and he's applying a toes out rotation to me, and I'm here applying a toe in rotation to him, he'll usually win. Not always. Maybe I'm stronger, maybe I'm more flexible, maybe I'm more stubborn. It's about a 60-40, 2/3, 1/3 split. But usually rotating the person's foot outward wins over rotating the person's foot inward. Let's just talk a little bit about ankle locks and heel hooks. The ankle lock is trumped by the heel hook. If I have Don in an ankle lock and he has me in a heel hook, he's going to win 95% of the time. He's going to be able to crank that before I crank this. And if he's got a little bit of pain tolerance, I'll get to stage 1 and he'll tear my knee. So that's something that you need to be aware of. And that's a good lead-in, because if you're going to use heel hooks, you have to be super aware that they're really dangerous. If I apply an ankle lock on Don, we're here. First, there's a bit of discomfort. Then there's pain. Then there's more pain. And then something goes pop. If he's heel hooking me, there's discomfort and then pop. The pain and the damage come together. So you don't have as much leeway, you don't have as much warning. So if you're applying heel hooks, you have to be super careful. What I recommend, if you want to get good at heel hooks, is first get good at the ankle lock. Most of the entries we're covering today are going to discuss them together. I'm going to show an ankle lock and then a heel hook. If you get really good at ankle locks, the hard part, which is the control of the legs, preventing him from standing up, preventing him from escaping, are pretty similar. The leg positions are virtually identical. The body position is very similar. You just have to change this, and you have to change the mechanics of application. Instead of bridging, you're going to bridge and rotate. So if you get really good at ankle locks, there's only a small adjustment you have to make to get good at heel hooks. And it's much safer. Then you can pull the heel hooks out of the bag when you're sparring for an MMA competition, in an MMA competition, in a competition that allows those heel hooks, or in a street self-defense situation. If we are sparring with heel hooks, and I get it, normally I just hold it for a few seconds. If my partner is at all experienced, he knows he's been caught. And you know what? If by not cranking it, and I hold it here, and I could have tapped him if I went, but I just hold it here, and he gets out, he spins, and he gets away. Big deal. I still have a training partner. We can continue training. If I pop that, I'd be risking him not being on the mats for half a year. So be very careful with those heel hooks. So in grappling, physical attributes are important. There's no way around that. If you have a certain type of body, there's certain sweeps and submissions and transitions that'll work better for you. And if you have a different kind of body, you might have a different set of high percentage moves for you. With regards to the high percentage foot locks, leg length is one variable that you can look at. And leg length is really important, especially for the straight ankle lock. The longer your legs are, the worse your technique can be, the worse your mechanics can be, and you can still pull off the leg lock. If your legs are shorter, and that's shorter relative to your opponent, then your technique and your mechanics need to be that much better in order to make it work. Not to say it can't work, but you have to work a lot harder to make sure everything's tight and right. For heel hooks, leg length isn't as important. It's still an advantage, but it's not a deal breaker. For toe holds and knee bars, leg length isn't the prime factor. For knee bars, strength becomes a little bit more important. You don't want to try knee barring someone who's got thighs that are as big as a tree unless they're really tired or unless your technique is really good. And you don't want to try ankle lock with someone whose legs are as long as a giraffe unless they're really tired or unless your technique's really good. So you do have to take physical attributes into account when planning your attacks. But finally, if your legs are short, should you be watching this video? I think yes, because people are still going to attack you. They're going to go, oh, this guy's got short legs, I'm going to ankle lock him. And the counters and recounters and re-counters, you need to be aware of those to round out your game. And the heel hooks are always a good ace in the hole to have if you're caught in a really tough situation or even in a street self-defense situation. For these entries, we're going to look at heel hooks and ankle locks together. The reason is many of the entries are very similar. The control is very similar. The counters and the recounters are somewhat similar, or they're often similar. And they also flow into one another. You might start out in an ankle lock and end up in a heel hook. So there's a lot of correspondence or overlap between these two topics. Also, working the ankle lock is a great way to get better at the heel hook. Heel hooks are dangerous, ankle locks aren't so dangerous. If you use ankle locks a lot, you can develop a lot of the attributes and the techniques and the mechanics that you're going to need for the heel hooks anyhow in a fairly safe environment. There's hundreds of entries into foot locks, but about 70% of them are against the guard. Most of the time that you apply a leg lock, it'll be against someone's guard. You are in someone's guard. There's variations where you're going from your guard, from side mount, from mount, all kinds of variations. But most of them start from in the guard, and that's where we're going to start today. To attack with a leg lock, almost always you have to open the legs first. In this first entry, I'm going to open his legs. You can open it any way that you normally open his closed guard. What I'll use today, hands in the armpit, pop up, put a knee in the middle, and squat down. Just enough to break it. Don't go all the way down. Once you're here, you're going to push the knee to the ground, and you're not going to wrap this leg yet. You're going to use your wing to hold that leg there. This is too telegraphic. Fold the wing down, push the knee down, and leap across. I'm trying to get this knee to the floor. As I'm falling, I can switch to this, and I continue on to here. This foot goes to the ground. I analyze my position. Often, if you loop the arm as you're falling, it's going to be too high on the calf. So I shrimp back a bit, adjust, snug everything up, and then arch. So doesn't matter how you open the legs, I'm going to push a knee down, and I'm going to launch my body this way, dragging this with me. I might not even get my arm around as we fall. I'm going to arch back, sink my arm, and apply. So like I said before, you can open the guard any way. Say I decide to do a neck crank here, I feel those legs open. Now's my chance. I'm going to stand up. From here, I push a knee to the ground, and I drag this with me. Let's say that I didn't get that arm in as I was falling. It was being held, I was doing something else with it. No problem. I move my hips back, sink under here, readjust. I either put my foot here, or more likely, all the way on the ground. From here, I can tap him. If I decide to go for the heel hook, I have to either go for it with conviction, because he could counter heel hook me, or I put my foot here and pinch my knees as much as I can. It depends on how comfortable I am going for the heel hook, how good he is at going for the heel hooks, and what the rules are. For the second entry, we open the guard again, however we want. Knee in the middle. The legs are open. Before, I pushed down this knee and went this way. Now I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to loop my arm as I fall and fall onto the side. This is leg position or leg alignment number 1. I try to make sure that ball of my foot is turned down. I don't want to be here. You'll see why later. My heel is in tight. Adjust everything and arch back. You see I'm going, in the first one, I'm going to my right and taking him with me. In this one, I'm going onto my left side and taking him with me. Generally speaking, I don't want to fall straight back. For the next entry, Don catches me with the basic scissor sweep. He controls my wrist, controls my head, opens his legs, puts the shin across, and he sweeps me. So, once he gets up here, I know I have to do 2 things. Could you go back, please? I have to get my knee over his thigh. Just have to pop over a distance of that much. That's my first focus. So as he sweeps, I drop the knee over, then I bring the trailing leg, the outside leg, over top. So as he completes the sweep, this foot is on his hip. From here, heel hook, power heel hook, ankle lock, whatever your pleasure is. From another angle, if he's got a firm grip on my head, this foot here goes onto his hip, because from here I can arch away. If I have a lapel, I might put that foot a bit higher into the armpit and use that foot in the armpit along with my hands on his wrist to help me strip. I'm trying to keep a pinch on the legs. Once I get rid of this, now I can proceed to adjust everything and tap. A good drill to develop this technique, and also to develop the sensitivity of catching leg locks on the fly, is this. I go into his guard, Don sweeps me left or right with a scissor sweep. I don't know which is coming. I might even have my eyes closed. Go ahead. And I jump into the leg lock position. And I apply it. I go back, and we move around. And keeping my eyes closed and not knowing which is coming, I catch leg locks. When you're scrambling in a grappling match and your opponent's just about sweeping you, or you're scrambling past his guard, you're just about past, you often get opportunities to leg lock the guy on the fly. It's not a setup per se, it's just taking advantage of an opportunity that's there and you're reacting to it. This kind of drill, where you don't know what's coming and you have to feel it and respond real quick, is a good way to start to develop that ability. I've warned you before about not falling straight backwards. If you fall straight backwards, it's much easier for him to come up on top of you. There is a way that you can do it though, and that's as you come straight back, to control both his legs, either here or here. It's kind of a double grip. From here, he finds it very difficult to stand up. Whereas if I just had one of his legs, he could.
On the inside. Push, push, push. Come up, come up, come up. Force the grip. Come up, sit up, sit up, sit up, sit up. Chris, sit up. Nothing there. You've got nothing. Sit up.
So I end up in this double position here. It's also good because unless he's really experienced, he's going to have a nagging concern at the back of his head. Which of my legs is he going for? Really, I can only submit this one. But because I'm holding this one in the same position, if he's not really good at leg locks, he's going to be wondering if I've got some kind of trick up my sleeve to submit that leg. So it puts a little bit of the fear of God into him. So from here, this leg doesn't even need to be over. I have several options. If I feel that the moment is right, using my experience, I can switch. Bring this foot over, bring my hands together, and arch up. If he's tough, he might take the pain and come up to the top. So another way to finish this is if we're rolling around, if we can come belly down. Now I can safely switch. 2 hands on one and tap them. So going to belly down is a good option. Third option is a bit more complex. I'm here with both of his feet, and I'm going to try and create some room in between his legs, because I want to operate with that leg. But right now he's probably squeezing his legs as well. I'm going to take my outside leg, the one that comes over top most of the time, and bring it underneath. Here, instep in, right there. I'm going to use this to open it up a bit. I'm pushing out this way. From here, I use that as a pressure point to push myself away and bring my other foot behind his knee. Now I can split him. In theory, I could leg lock him here, but that would involve him not reacting too much. Once I'm here and I've got that foot on the thigh, I can bring this foot back over top and insert it underneath that leg. From here, move my butt to his butt, which I've been doing anyhow, and arch. So here are the steps one more time. Start out with both legs. 1, move away and insert the instep at the knee. 2, open the knee, push at the knee. 3, bring my foot over top and move butt to butt, inserting the foot under the knee. And 4, either keeping my feet together, side by side, arch here. We're here, and I realize I've made a big mistake. He sits up, maybe he's grabbing my head. I just get the sense there's no way I'm going to be able to leg lock him. He's going to be trying to come up, and what I do here is I lift him up a bit. He thinks that he's onto something. I lift him up, and then I drop him down and come back on top. The motion on the bottom there, I've got both legs. He's pulling himself up. I lift him up a bit, not too far, and then I dump him down and follow him up. At least I'm back to the starting point. At least I've avoided being mounted with him sitting on me, which would be bad. So the 4 options I'm going through today from this double grip is 1, bring the foot over, switch to a 2-on-1, and go back here. Cup and saucer grip. 2, build a bit of momentum with your legs and go over top of his legs to belly down. Now arch here. 3, take this foot, open up his leg a bit here, push here. Bring that leg back. Move butt to butt and apply. And the 4th, which isn't a leg lock at all, if he's really insistent on coming up, is to lift him up a bit and then drop him down. Even if he's still hanging onto your head, you can still end up back in the guard. One reason there's so many entries for ankle locks and heel hooks and foot locks is that there's so many variations of open guard. When we're in open guard, his feet are vulnerable. They're a little bit less vulnerable if they're on my hips. But a lot of my game, if I want to leg lock him, is to move this foot that far. If I can get his foot off my hip and beside my hip, even for a second, I can then drop my weight onto it. Now it's pretty difficult for him to pull it out, right? I've got it pinned a little bit. Or I can lock it like this, or I can fall down. So a large part of the battle is to use my elbows to get that foot off my hip. To use my hand to pull it up, push the other one down. If my hands are all tied up, I can use my knee. I circled my knee in here and just popped it off. Once that foot comes off my hip, before he goes and readjusts in another position, which would change my entry, if it's floating here by my hip, that's my go position. That's my trigger position. So play with some methods using your elbow, using your hand, and even using your knee. Just pop that off your hip, where you can now pick it up and go into some of the other entries that I've talked about. This next ankle lock is high percentage, but you're unlikely to get it more than once on an opponent. It's sort of in the realm of a trick. While I'm in Don's closed guard, I'm going to start loosening his belt a little bit. And if I can control his belt here and move my hips back, now I've got a chance to attack him with this. I'm going to maneuver so that my foot goes into his belt. Keep your guard close, please. He doesn't really know what's going on because he doesn't have eyes in his back. Once I've got my foot in the loop of his belt, if I stand up, he can't follow me. Keep it closed. From here, I can even tap him with no feet over. My foot is in a very secure position. If I fall back here, I'm tapping him without regards to where my legs are. They're not securing his hips at all. It's my foot in his belt that's securing his hips. Once you do this to someone once, they'll never let you do it again. And while we're doing tricks regarding ankle locks, here's another one. This isn't even really an ankle lock, it's using the threat of an ankle lock to shut down an attack. If I stand in Don's guard, one very common thing for the guy to do is to underhook your leg. If I grab his lapels and pull, or grab his head and pull, that sometimes shuts this down. But what if he doesn't have those things? Or what if I can't get to them? I can take my hand here and do a really poor ankle lock, way high up on his leg. When I pull up here, I'm pulling my leg down into the ground. I'm using his weight. Now as Don bridges to take me down, I pull up here. He's worried now. He's worried about me ankle locking him, even though I'm in a terrible position. And I'm anchored, so I might yet survive not getting swept here. So that's using an ankle lock not to get swept. Unlike most of the other entries we've done, this one is really only a heel hook entry. If I stand in Don's guard and he lumberjack sweeps me by grabbing both my heels, putting his knees together, and sweeping me back, if I turn sideways as I fall, bring this leg over, now I have access to his heel. I don't really have access to a very powerful ankle lock because I don't have any of the leg positions we've talked about. I don't want to cross my ankles here because as I'm doing this, or as I'm fishing here, Don can grab my top leg and arch. So as I fall, I want to bring my foot to the ground, the top one over, and I want to turn sideways. So that I stand here, he sweeps, I turn sideways and pinch my knees together. If I can't get that heel free, that's okay. I go for the heel hook. As soon as I get that free, I go. Don't cross. Incidentally, this is why, if you do the lumberjack sweep, I like to open my legs quite wide and push here. Push and sweep. Because now I don't have access to the heels. Or alternately, do it from a butterfly guard position. Grab the heels, push with your shins. Both of those variations are a lot safer for the ankles than the standard lumberjack, but it's only an issue if heel hooks are allowed. Most of the time, when you apply an ankle lock from your guard, your opponent has to be standing or at least crouching. It's tough to do if he's kneeling down and his center of gravity is really low. Typically, when you want to do this to your opponent, when he's standing, you'll control a wrist. I like two hands on one. I'm going to push him away. Usually, he'll push back in. I push him away. Then, as he pushes in, I drop a leg, and he comes in. I bring this foot up onto the hip. What happens here is really dependent on his reaction and what your ability is to finish against a standing opponent. If I want to ankle lock him, I have to knock him down. I can heel hook him though, if I can lift his heel 1 inch off the ground. I come underneath it here, and I take him down this way. The key motion is to push him away. As he comes in, I drop a leg and circle it up the outside. We're going to get into countering your opponent when he stands up. And any of those finishes, any of those counters, you can apply in this position. If I'm wrapped here, I can bring my feet, I can bridge, I can ankle lock them, go to the counters and recounter section, and take a look at the countering the stand-up to get an idea of how to finish this. Let's say, for this technique, we're working the De La Riva guard, where your foot comes around the outside and hooks inside his thigh. I'm controlling the heel and the sleeve or the wrist. From here, I can pull this leg out, bring it all the way here, and bring it over. Now I can heel hook, I can roll to my stomach. We're going to show that on the other side. We're here. I've got my De La Riva hook in here, which exposes me to foot locks as well, so I have to be careful. I'm either controlling the sleeve or the wrist and the heel. This foot's forward, that's where I want it to be. I take this leg out, through, and over. It's a big motion. From here, we see how we finish it. Oftentimes, when you're grappling no-gi, you'll start out with a collar tie. You'll be in a reciprocal position, one hand behind the neck, one hand on the arm. Either under or over, doesn't matter. I'm going to push into Don. This way, he pushes back into me. Once I've got some pushing action from him, I'm now going to slide close to him. I'm going to almost skip for here, and I'm going to go for my instep inside his knee. So push into me just a little bit. I'm going to go here and sit back. I'm going to push him off of me and bring my outside leg over. From here, if he doesn't continue rolling or nothing too dynamic happens, of course I have the heel hook, of course I have the ankle lock. Oftentimes, this is so dynamic that the guy does a complete roll. And you might end up on top using that as a takedown rather than an ankle lock. But either way, you end up with the ankle lock or you end up with a takedown. So we're here. I'll just show from the other side. I push into him using this forearm, and he pushes back. Perfect. Once I feel that back pressure, now I know I can do it. I skip in, a pendulum step here, I put my instep inside, I sit down, and I bring this foot over the top. Sometimes he's falling. If he isn't falling, if he ends up standing still, just stand up. Now I refer you to the section in the counters and recounters against an opponent who's standing in your guard. If you're in a dominant position like side mount, why on earth would you want to fall back and go for a leg lock? Well, there's a couple of reasons. You might be so super confident in your leg locks that you think tapping him is a near certainty. You might be so confident in your leg locks that you know even if you go for it, you'll end up back in a dominant position. Or it might be a kind of a Hail Mary move. Say you're in a competition and you're down by a point or a couple of points, and you have to finish him or you're going to lose, even though you're in side mount. And he's all tied up here, he's protecting his neck, he's not giving him his arms. He's ahead. He knows that all he needs to do is hold out for another 20 seconds. What I like to do in those situations, start in side mount, put pressure on the neck. And I give him a little bit of room here. Could you straighten this leg, please? An automatic response in a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners is to bring this knee up to start regarding. What he wants to do is bring that knee in and put me back in the guard. It's just such a programmed instinct among jiu-jitsu players that you can take advantage of it. You're here, I give him a bit of room. He brings that knee in. As he brings this knee in, and normally this knee would be bent, he's just leaving it low so that you can see. I bring my own knee up. Now I've got this kind of isolated. From here, I push off from here and I fall back. As I fall back, I don't go for the leg. I don't go for the ankle lock, and I don't go for this right away. Because the big danger, as I fall back, is that he pops up and comes over top of me. So as I fall back, I either have to control this leg really tightly, or control this leg. Now I fall back. Now he doesn't have the advantage of momentum anymore. From here, I can either finish it as a cross heel hook, or I bridge up, I put it across, I go down, and now I finish it as an ankle lock or as a regular heel hook. I have that option depending on which I'm more comfortable with. The key points, once again, put pressure on his throat, give him a bit of room here. That knee will come in. You can't wait too long or he'll regard fully. Bring this knee up, fall back. Either control this leg, you can control it by grabbing the pants. Sometimes it's possible to grab it like this with no-gi. With no-gi, I often just like cupping the knee, falling back and pinching. Now I can finish it here, I can switch. I reach up, pull across, down, and finish it here, or end up in any other position that we've discussed previously. One relatively common way to get into a footlock is by attacking the knee first with a knee bar. Let's just say when I'm here in Don's half guard and I'm going for a knee bar. We'll turn here. And I don't have good rotational control over his foot, or his toes slip out, or not pinching hard enough. And Don manages to get out by twisting his leg. All is not lost yet, because I still have his foot. Usually he's moving out a little bit, which works for me. So from here, if I can convert off into a heel hook, into an ankle lock, by taking advantage that his foot is now aligned this way instead of towards me, things can still work out. Let's just start from a different position. Say Don has me in De La Riva guard, and I come back, go for a knee bar. As I'm coming, Don bends his knee this way. No problem. I can convert off the knee bar into the ankle lock or heel hook very easily. The next entry tries to make the best out of a bad situation. Somehow I got mounted. Maybe I got punched in the head and knocked out for a second. When I come to, I'm here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put both of my hands on his hips, and I'm going to bring both my feet up. I'm going to bridge as high as I can, and then I'm going to bench press them while dropping my hips. That doesn't take as much strength as you might think, because I'm using my hips to lift. From here, I bring my knee inside and my outside foot over the top. And I finish. The motion, don't get off me for a second. The motion is here. I bridge and I finish the push. Most of the lifting is done with my hips. I drop my hips, I bring my knee inside. From here, I try and rotate him away from me while bringing my outside leg around his leg. Come back to the mount, please. So we're here. If he's grapevining me or crossing his ankles, I can't do this. I've got to fight free of here first. But if I sense that he's being lazy with his feet, I have a chance. Put my hands on his hips, I bridge up. I bring my knee up the middle, my foot over the outside, and I apply the footlock. If I don't get the footlock and he gets out and it ends up being a big scramble, well, at least I'm out of the mount. So I should be happy with that. Not as far-fetched as it might seem, so long as he isn't hooking your thighs or your legs with his heels. Here's a way to apply the footlock from omoplata. I have omoplata. I've caught one of his arms, and I'm having difficulty finishing it. He's controlling the inside of his thigh, or he's really strong. What I'm going to do, move your head towards the wall, please. from here is I'm going to drop this knee down a little bit. Even if I don't break his grip, this allows me to do the next move, which is control this foot and pull it over my head. Here. This rolls him, and I can sit up, and I can heel hook him here. As you see, his arm is trapped, making it very, very difficult for him to counter me. Showing that again from another angle. We're here, and he's got his arm buried. He's putting pressure on me. I want to drop this knee a little bit. I want to move this knee from above his body to below his body. I grab his heel of his near leg, pull it over me. From here, I pinch my legs to control his knee. I sit up, and I heel hook. As you see, his hand is trapped here. By the time he gets it out, I should have the heel hook on. If you're not playing with heel hooks, it's more adjustment required. I might at that point move it across my body, come here. By that point, his hand will have come out, and I'll have to be adjusting for him being able to move. But it's still an entry into a footlock from omoplata. Sometimes you want to escalate from an ankle lock position to a heel hook position. And it's difficult sometimes because if the person keeps his heel in, he might not be putting on the full boot, or he might be. But it's tough to catch that heel if he has that heel pressed against your body. So what are you to do? The first, and I'm going to show this with my leg down, is a simple three-step process. 1, grab the knee, turn it over. 2, catch the heel. 3, palm to palm, and crank down here to make it tight. So that's the first way to transition. The next way is if I'm here and his heel's tight, if I move my hips this way, away, it leaves his heel behind. Now I can come up, palm to palm, and finish the heel hook. Another thing I can do, instead of moving my hips sideways, is go to the third leg position we were talking about initially, where I push Don's thigh with my foot and I circle around, bringing my butt towards him. If I don't hold on to his leg, see how if his heel's sort of tight against my body, as I move my butt to Don's butt, keep an eye on how Don's heel will automatically rise. It's very difficult for him to keep it turned in. From here, I can easily crank it. And the final version, we're here, the heel's turned in. I switch, hips up, hips down, pin it, and come here. His foot was turned out like that, making it difficult for me to catch it on my left. By moving it across my body and bringing my armpit over it, it's now in the perfect position for me to catch it. So that's how to escalate from an ankle lock to a heel hook when your opponent isn't being gracious about giving you the heel. This is a little drill on how to move the person's leg from the straight position to the crossed position. I'm here, basically a belly to the sky leg position, and I've got his ankle trapped on this side. I might have it ankle locked. I'm going to go across with my hand. Now I'm going to release the hand that's holding it, lift my hips up, drop my hips down, hold his shin, come under here. Now I've got an ankle lock and I've got a heel hook. I'm going to release, come across, hips up, hips down, control, ankle lock, heel hook, power heel hook if I want. Come across, hips up, hips down, control, control, come across, hips up, hips down, ankle lock, heel hook, power heel hook. I keep on switching this. This is exactly the same as this I have done in the triangle choke. I want Don's arm crossed, but oftentimes you end up with it here. One way to move it across is to lift my hips up, pull the arm across. Now I can tighten and readjust. You might move it across because you end up in this position and you're not comfortable with it. You want it to be in a straight position. That's great. That's how you move it to a straight position. You might be here because he's going a heel out defense and you can't heel hook him, say. That's fine. Hips up, hips down. Put that under the armpit. Now his heel out defense has gone awry on him. It's actually giving you that heel hook as a toe out rotation. So get used to moving your hips up and down to move his leg from one side of your body to the other side of your body. When you're talking about countering the ankle lock, not the heel hook, but the ankle lock, you shouldn't be spinning. If I've got ankle lock here, there's not much to be gained by Don spinning. If I really have this tight and Don spins, he's turning a straight ankle lock into a heel hook. Basically, I'm holding his foot solid here, and Don is rotating with respect to his foot. That's a toe out rotation. If he spins the other way, that's a toe in rotation. He's going to destroy the cruciate ligaments in the back of his knee and other things in his ankle. So don't roll. With a heel hook, you're going to roll. With an ankle lock, you don't roll. That's an important point. A general point to avoid foot locks when you're using your guard, come into my guard please, is do not leave your feet dangling here. This is the trigger position for him to attack with a leg lock. When it's here, he can go around my ankle and start attacking me. If I know he's a leg locker, I either keep a closed guard, and if I want to go to an open guard, I do everything I can to move, to get my feet on his hips, insteps behind his knees, feet on the biceps. I don't want to be stuck here or here. This is just giving it to him. To help me cross that danger zone, going from closed guard to open guard, I'm going to really have to control his head. It's tough for him to go for an ankle lock with his head down. If I'm here, he usually has to pop my hands off his head. Now I'm in danger again. If it's gi, I try and keep his posture broken while I open my guard and move my foot back. If he stands up, foot on the hip, foot behind the knee, foot on the bicep, all of these are safer than just being here. He's going to catch me every time. This is one of the high percentage counters to the basic ankle lock. I screw up, I give Don my ankle, he falls down. His foot usually comes up over my belly. This stops me from getting close to him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand and push his ankle down. I'm propping myself up so I'm more mobile. I push this down and I pop my hips over across his foot. I'm trying to keep my knee and foot pointing up at the ceiling. Show them here. There. I'm not going to leave it sideways. I turn it up. Normally, as I start coming up here, he comes back to his knees and we end up in the guard. Hopefully, I don't get caught again. So, I'm going to do this to Don now. I come here, I sit back. Stop for a second. If I'm here, he's going to roll to his side. So my outside leg is down. He's going to pop himself up and over my heel. Normally, I abandon ship and come back into his guard. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. So to counter him hopping his hips over your foot, the first move is to be aware of where this foot is, your outside leg. If I'm just here, or if I'm loose with it, he can do it no problem. He can push it down, hop his hip over. If, on the other hand, I'm really turning my foot so the ball of the foot is down and my heel is up, he can push on it, and it's much harder for him to get it flat. He can do it eventually, but I didn't give it to him. And maybe in that interim time, by pinching my knees and getting my bite, I've managed to tap him. So that's the first level of counter. It's just the structure of this foot. Heel up, ball of toe, ball of foot down, like this. The next counter, as he pushes it down, he gets past that, hops his hip over. I'm going to drive this knee to the floor, here. I really have to turn Don's leg. I can't leave his toes pointing up. As he hops his hips over, I have to turn his foot to the floor. We're here. I've tried for this. He's hopped his hips over anyhow. I turn his knee to the floor using my knee. I go belly down. And I apply it. I'm ending up in the 5th leg alignment position that we talked about right at the beginning. Finally, I'm here. He's hopped his hips down. He's hopped his hips over, but he's keeping his knee pointing up at the ceiling. Move over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand that's not locking his ankle, grab his trailing leg, and readjust my knees. Now I go to the other side. If he hops his hips over, I grab his trailing leg and go here. You're probably only going to be able to do that once or twice in a match, because then he'll time you and he'll beat you. But it does make a fine drill to go here. He hops his hips over. I take the other leg. I go here. He hops his hips over. I take his other leg. He hops his hips over. And we go back and forth. That gives me practice at snagging a leg out of thin air. It gives him practice and repetition at doing the escape. It's good for both of us. Another really powerful family of counters is to stand up. If I'm sloppy here and Don takes an ankle lock and falls back, I've got to do one of a couple of things. For sure, I've got to get this leg back here. I can't stand up if this leg is forward. So if I can bring this leg back, that's a good thing. It also helps if I can control a lapel or if I'm close enough to control a head. If he stands up and as he falls back, if I've got a lapel, I can hitch a ride all the way up to the top. If I don't have a lapel, if I don't have the head, and he goes here, it helps if I can pull this foot back. It helps if I can grab something, his wrist, his lapel if he has one, his head if he's really silly and gives it to me. And it helps if I get this foot off, but I don't have to get this foot off. In fact, sometimes it's better just to stand up. So here I am, I get this foot back, and I stand up. So once I've stood up on my opponent, the first thing I need to do is keep that whole foot on the ground. If it's only the heel on the ground, then I'm not very stable. My weight's too far back. I've got to rock my weight forward so my whole foot is on the ground. And I need to grab something. Especially if this foot's in here, I need to grab something. This will allow me to anchor. It'll make it much harder for him to knock me over. Now, if he's really flexible, and he can keep this foot here, he can keep this knee here, I like grabbing the head and dropping my knee into his eye socket, basically. I'm not trying to blind him, I'm just trying to make life uncomfortable for him and make him pay for trying to ankle lock me. So we're here. My next goal is to get this leg free. If I can, I use this elbow or I use this hand and I try and pop that foot off my hip. Now I try and keep that space hard to get and I try popping over all the way into mount. That doesn't always work. Usually he's got counters that he's doing as I'm doing all this stuff, but that's sort of my default plan. We're here, knee into the face, keep the grip on the head, strip that foot off my hip, grab, pop that knee over, come down to a dominant top position. So, if this foot's on the hip, we've talked about dealing with it. Get it off here, get it off here. Oftentimes, bring it up. As I stand, he'll bring his other foot here. Now I've got 2 feet here. My strategy here is to take his legs and cross them down and push them down as far as I can. I don't want them on my knee. I want it on the bottom half of my shin. From here, he basically can't finish the ankle lock anymore, and he doesn't have a lot of leverage to sweep me. And I can come down, stabilize behind him, and start working him over that way. If you plan on making ankle locks part of your game, you have to develop some strategies for dealing with your opponent when he tries to stand up, because about half the time when you try an ankle lock, your opponent will try and counter it by standing up. The first strategy in dealing with it is not to let him stand up. That's one reason why I don't generally like applying an ankle lock with my belly to the sky, because he can stand up. It's not the end of the world, but it's made my life more difficult. If I'm on my side, he might get out, he might do a hip hop escape, but he's not standing over top of me. So I can prevent him from standing up by being on my side, by controlling his other leg, or to some extent by flaring my foot out. Instead of having my instep right at his bum, I flare it out here. This makes it a little bit more difficult for him to get this leg back behind him. Not impossible, but it might buy me enough time to finish him. The second approach is, as he begins thinking about standing up, he brings this leg back and he starts lifting. Stop right there, please. I'm going to go to my belly down. I'm going to take this foot, bring it underneath, take my outside leg, bring it underneath his bum, take my inside leg, and drive him belly flat. There's only a brief moment of opportunity there, and as he's coming up in slow motion, now's when I do it. As he's coming up, if he comes up higher than that towards me, too late. Can't do it anymore. I have to change how I do it. But if as he lifts his bum off, I switch here, perfect. Now, let's assume he stood up all the way. I'm going to show you 2 counters that are pretty commonly taught, but they're also commonly anticipated. The first one is to make him do a face plant. I'm going to take my inside leg, I'm going to put it on his knee. I'm going to push out his knee, and I'm going to chop down my ankle. He falls on his face, we're belly down, I finish. So he stands. I've kept this position as he's gone up. I'm going to push his knee out here. There. He falls on his belly. And I tap him. The next one, instead of planting him on his face, I try and plant him on his bum. What I'm going to do is pull down with this heel and back. It's not a very strong movement, but he's not super stable. With this foot, which was here, I'm going to pull out this way and up. I'm going to pull here and up. If I do those movements together, I can reap him backwards onto his bum. I'm going to show 1 and 2 from another angle. I'm here, I screw up, I let him come up. First one, I push out his knee here. There. Second one, I'm going to move this behind his knee come down with one heel, come up with the instep, and tap him here. This is one of my favorite recounters to my opponent standing up. I go for an ankle lock, he stands up. Turn a bit that way, please. Right now, my outside leg is on his hip, and I keep this pinched. I'm going to bring my inside leg out, and I bring my soles of my feet together, like I'm praying. From here, I'm going to bridge over the shoulder that's closest to his foot, and I'm going to look this way. From here, I adjust, and I attack. I have to go pretty quick because my feet are in a vulnerable position. If he separates them, he can ankle lock it, he can heel hook it. To some extent, me keeping my feet together in the prayer position helps protect me from that. From another angle, we're here, I go back, he stands, I keep it pinched, I bring my feet out, I'm going to bridge over the shoulder that's closest to his foot. Here. And I adjust, and I tap him. Here's another one of my favorites, and I went into it in more detail in my butterfly guard and X guard video, but since it is so relevant to the topic, I'm going to show it again here. I'm going for an ankle lock. I see that my opponent is getting his leg back, and he's getting ready to pop up, and I concede that he's going to stand up on me. What I do is I abandon the ankle lock. I keep his leg, and as he comes forward, my battle is instead to bring the hand that was locking him underneath his heel. You'll see this from the other angle. Now as he comes up more, I'm going to bring the foot between his legs, behind his knee, and the foot that was around the outside of his hip, which is now pretty precarious, inside. Now I've got to jack his foot up onto my shoulder, and now I'm in X guard. I can finish X guard any number of ways, depending on the context, but you're way better off here than you are with him crushing you from above. I'm just going to show that from the other angle. So we're here. Don is getting his feet underneath him. I see it coming. I abandon the hand that's around his ankle, and as he comes forward, stop. There's some space here between his foot and my body, almost always. It's very difficult for him to not give me that space. And all I do is catch his ankle. Now as he comes forward, he lifts his hips up more. This creates more space for me to move the foot between his legs down to his knee. He's going to be trying to get rid of this anyhow. Bring that between his legs. And now jack this up onto my shoulder. Finish the X guard position.
Reverse, up. Push his right leg. There you go, good. Pass the guard. Pass the leg, Chris. Do your balance. Watch your balance, Chris. Do your balance. Walk through, run through it. Chris, jump forward and run through that. Run through it.
One final answer, if he stands up, is if heel hooks are legal, all you have to do is get his heel an inch off the ground, maybe 2 inches, and he's really in trouble. Come over here, please, Don. I'm here. He stood up. His heel's currently on the ground. If I bridge up, it lifts his heel up. Come back, heel back down. See how I'm keeping it pinched here, and I'm extending my hips. This lifts the heel. From here, it's easy to come under the heel, and typically I drop my foot from here to there. That helps prevent him from spinning. If he's here, he can spin, he can pirouette. Do a pirouette, rip it out. If I'm here, I lift, and I switch here, do a pirouette, he gets all bound up. From here I can finish it very easily. So, lift your hips, get his heel even an inch off the ground, go for a heel hook, Try to get the wrist. Can't get that, go for the elbow, crank him over. At the very least, he's not on top of you anymore. You'll be safe. Don's going to show a very simple counter. It's not an escape, but it's a time buyer. It allows him to survive and figure out what's happening for long enough to try some other escapes. I'm here, locking the ankle. I'm going to have my legs loose. What Don's going to do is a movement called putting on the boot. He's going to push his foot in deeper, not shallower, and he's going to pull his toes towards him. It's like you're putting on a boot like that. So he's here, I've got it, he's pushing it in deeper. Also notice how his heel is turned in. He doesn't want to put on the boot with his heel turned out because it would of course give me the heel hook. So he puts on the boot, heel turned in. This complicates my life. There's a couple of answers to this. The first, and it sometimes works, is to switch to a figure 4 grip. If I can get the back of my shoulder on the tips of his toes and a figure 4 grip, I can then use my whole body to straighten out his leg. Once it's straight, I can switch to the cup and saucer method. If I feel more comfortable with this, I can stay here. That doesn't work so well if he's got the boot on properly with the heel turned out because I don't have the back of my shoulder on his toes. Come this way, please. So if he just puts on the boot without turning the foot, I can figure 4 grip, get my shoulder on the back of the foot, and use that to straighten it out. I'm using the weight of my body and the strength of my spinal erectors to counter the strength of his tibialis anterior, which is a pretty small muscle, no offense, here. So that's not a very strong muscle. You can out-strengthen. If he's turning the foot outward, you have a bit more of a problem. What I like to do in that case is switch sides. It's turned out this way. I'm going to take my hand, grip here, bridge up, come across. I'm going to pinch my knees to prevent foot rotation and come here. If he keeps the same angle, the angle that was preventing me from switching to the heel hook or even getting a good ankle lock comes across here, it's giving me that heel. So we're here, he puts on the boot, I'm going to switch sides, escalate to the heel hook. If I'm attacking with an ankle lock and I'm wearing a gi, this is also semi-applicable if he's grabbing your neck, if he's got long arms, but it's most common with the gi. I'm here, he's often going to put on the boot, stick your foot through, and he's going to grab my lapel with this hand, usually with that hand, because what he's going to try and do is base behind him so that he can stand up. He's going to try this. So sit back, please. So this is something that you have to contend with all the time. There's a couple of answers. One is to move my hips further away, and that loads up on the tension. It makes everything more tense, and I can maybe push in the armpit with that foot for a second. If I'm really having a difficulty breaking this grip, I can release his leg and grip fight here, and then reinsert. It's the second option. But if none of that's working, or if I get the sense that if I let go of this leg, he's gone, here's another thing I'd like to try. I'm here, I'm going to take my outside leg off his hip, and I'm going to put it underneath his knee here. I'm inserting it here. This is to open up his leg. I open his legs apart because I'm trying to get my outside leg, my inside leg out and over. I'm trying to trap his arm and his leg. Then I bring my legs together. From here I pinch as hard as I can. Hold on. This creates, it pins his forearm. Now I can rip free and apply the ankle lock with his arm trapped. It's a lot of steps, so let's do that one again. So we're here. So first strategy is to snug everything up, move my hips away a little bit. I don't want to give him a good job to get his arm in and get into a good position. I move away a bit. I put my foot in his armpit. Maybe if he's weak gripped or he didn't get a good grip, that'll be enough. If that's not, I'll let go and I'll try stripping here. Now it'll be a battle between him standing up and me going back for the ankle, but I know some answers if he stands up. The most complicated version of all of this is I take my outside leg and I bring it to the inside of his foot, right there. I use this to open up his legs a bit. I'm going to use that space to bring my inside leg up and over and clamp down on his arm. I'm trying not to go too high. I'm trying to go low on his forearm. From here, I bring my bottom leg out, either cross my ankles, go to a prayer position, and now I can usually rip that and apply. If it's a gi context, heel hooks usually aren't allowed. Then I feel safer about bringing both feet to that outside position. Sometimes when I go back for an ankle lock, my opponent will do a valid counter. He'll control an arm. This does two things. First of all, it prevents me from, let go, linking my hands here and making my grip more powerful. And also, to some extent, it stops me or retards me from bridging backwards because he's pulling me forwards. So it's inhibiting the body action required to lock the leg. So if I get one leg, but my wrist is being controlled, if I've got a gi, he might be controlling my sleeve, I have two options generally. One is to try and apply the ankle lock with one arm by placing that fist into as good a position as you can, putting it against your body so that it's lots of friction there, and then trying to kick out, move yourself away, and arch. And there's a chance you can get it with just one arm, even when he is controlling you. If he's really controlling you very tightly, though, you may have no other option than to release his ankle and sit up and try and grip fight with him here, trying to get rid of his hands and then bring them both back. Now you're a Tyrannosaurus. You're here. You're not giving him an easy grab. You're bringing your arms way back and you're fishing for the leg again. So if he has your arm, there's a valid counter. You can try to apply it one-handed. Sometimes that works. Or you can release. Here's where it becomes really important how well you've learned to control your opponent with your legs. You don't have his ankle in your hand anymore. So you've really got to rely on your body weight and on your squeezing knees and on your knowledge of the stand-up counters to risk letting go here and grip fighting. He's here, he's got my wrist, trying to pull it out. Exactly, just like a Jiu-Jitsu 101 going through the thumbs. Now, you've got to get back onto that leg and finish it properly. There's a similar movement to putting on the boot. If Don stands up and has my foot wrapped, come over here please, Don. This one? Yeah. If he's threatening me here, yes, I'm going to put on the boot, but I'm also going to try to rotate my heel inward like that. Because usually there's some room in here where my leg can pop out. So I'm here, I'm going to rotate my foot inward. It's an extreme version of putting on the boot, and as you see, my heel pops out. A good way to train this is to give him both feet. He takes both of them, like a pro wrestling move, and I'm going to practice moving my left foot, moving my hips to the right, and then moving my hips to the left, getting up my right foot. So give it to him again. This time I'm going to go here, here. So this is an escape for an ankle lock or a counter if heel hooks are legal and he's trying an ankle lock. So it shows the importance of knowing what the rules are, because really he's bringing an ankle lock to a heel hook fight. So he's here. Even if he's got it locked on, I'm in trouble, but I should be able to suffer through a little bit of pain. It's going to be a lot more pain than damage with an ankle lock. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open up my legs, and I'm going to grab his heel. Now as he arches back to apply the ankle lock, I'm going to arch back, pulling the heel. Basically, I'm applying a toe-in rotational heel hook. So we're here. As he goes, I find his heel and I go back. His toes are right under my hips. My hands are right on his heel. If his foot's off to the side a little bit, I can, within limits, use my thigh here and kick there. It's a dangerous thing, but you have to know it, even from a defensive point of view. To counter that, if I'm ankle locking Mo and he is grabbing my heel, I can do a couple of things. Number one is as he starts applying it, I can really bury my foot underneath his butt. I kick it in deeper. Now if he opens his legs, it's a bit tougher for him to find my heel, and I've got more time to finish my ankle lock or convert to a heel hook. The second thing I could do is I could pinch my knees as he starts going. Okay, come outside and flare my foot out here. If my knees are pinched and my foot is hooking at his knee, it's very difficult for him to do this. It is a little bit awkward for me to be lying here and flaring the foot out as opposed to being in a more relaxed position, but it does save me from the heel hook. Another option, finally, is if I know he likes heel hooks, to start switching to another leg position, like this leg position here. I have to be careful here though, because he could grab my heel and do a reverse heel hook. That's an outward toe rotation. He's rotating my toe that way. So if he starts going for that, this foot becomes really important. And I put my feet together like this. Now that'll delay him long enough, and if I see he's going for a heel hook, there's no reason for me not to go for a heel hook and rip his leg off. So that's some details on the heel hook being used as a counter to the ankle lock. A related counter, using the heel hook to counter another leg lock, is when I'm being knee barred. If Don is knee barring me here, lying on his side, I can sometimes submit him first by pulling his knee open, either both hands here or coming underneath and opening up here. You see his foot here by my groin? That's kind of similar to where we were. I grab the heel and I come over. Now, not only has my knee rotated out, but I can heel hook him by leaning back. So if he's knee barring me, obviously I'm going to be using all the strength of my leg to try and bend it, just to buy me a second of time. I'm going to reach up and pry his knees open. This reduces the leverage that he has, and it begins to rotate my knee away from his belly. So now I come over top of that, grab the heel, and if he leaves the toes here, I can heel hook him. Normally it'll come out like this, but now we're not in the heel hook, now we're not in knee bar country anymore. We've switched to an entirely different paradigm of being legs towards each other as opposed to being here. So that's using a heel hook to counter the knee bar. If Don is attempting to ankle lock me here, he has to extend his hips and arch away to apply. One thing I can do to inhibit that of him is a one-handed knee crush. I'm going to take one hand, my right hand in this case, because my right leg is trapped, and come underneath his knee, the knee in the middle. I can figure four it here. Now, it's much harder for him to arch back because at the same time as he arches, I'm pulling and I'm moving my hips closer and it's almost ready to tap. The odds of really tapping him here are very slim, but it's causing him a lot of pain and concern, which might cause him to abandon ship on the ankle lock or the heel hook. So I'm here. This is the counter to the attack. So, now the ankle lock's on the other foot. I'm attacking here. Don takes his arm. I'm attacking his right leg. He takes his right arm, goes in behind my knee, goes deep, and he figure fours his arms and he pulls up. By arching, It's putting a fair amount of pain on me. I probably wouldn't tap, especially in competition, but it's certainly getting me off of thinking about his ankle.
Sit up, sit up, sit up, sit up. Chris, sit up. Nothing there. He's got nothing. Sit up. No, no. Sit up and take the reverse. Chris, sit up. Sit up on the weight. Chris, sit up on the weight. Come over the top. Chris.
To recounter this, what I'm going to do, let's roll upwards so it's a bit more visible. I'm going to take my foot off his hip and move it onto my own foot. From here, I can push. And from here, he taps. The problem is, as I'm extending here, I'm losing control over his leg. If he abandons ship, he can pop up over very easily and maybe even come up to the top. So we'll do the whole sequence one more time. I'm going for the attack. This is the attack. And I've got my foot on his hip. Don does the recounter, or the counter, by coming through behind my knee with his forearm, figure four-ing his arms. This is the counter to the attack. I recounter his attack by moving my hips backwards and putting my own foot on my own foot. Let's roll here to show it. And from here I push. Don counters that by sliding over. I'm going to show this one because it's so cool. It comes from Shuto, and you can use it when the person's kicking at you, trying to hurt you, or if the person's bringing his foot forward, trying some other counter, and you can pull it off in real life. I'm here with an ankle lock. It's easiest to show this standing, but you can do it on the ground too. If I'm here, and he's trying to kick me, or maybe he's trying to push my body or push my wrist off of his ankle. What I can do is if I can pass his leg over his trapped leg, I sit back and I bring my own leg over his leg. So from here I can tap. So from top to bottom, on the top is my leg, then it's his leg, then it's his other leg, and on the bottom of the whole thing is my wrist. So we'll do this again. I'm here, say I'm back. Don's bringing his foot forward for some reason, or maybe it just got trapped here in the scramble. I cross it, and I trap it. I pinch my knees. So from here, it's like I'm isolating his knee and his thigh. I'm just using his own leg to do it. I pinch to make everything tight, and from here I can rip his ankle off. Now we're going to work some heel hook defenses. These are important because even if you're never going to spar with heel hooks in your entire life, you could always have the experience where some guy comes into your club, he's a new guy, he's read about heel hooks on the internet, he's seen them in the UFC, and he doesn't know that they're illegal and that they're dangerous. So knowing some of these and practicing some of these is completely valid. Normally guys start with an ankle lock position and then transition to a heel hook and then apply it. So go back to the ankle lock. There's often, not always, but there's often a moment to escape right in the transition. As Don goes to there, you start pulling your foot out for all it's worth. You're here. If you're no gi, everything's slipperier. You have more of an escape. If it's gi, you can grab your own knee and pull it towards you. Once it's here, partially out, it's really tough for him to sink the heel hook. So pulling it out is definitely a good move. Another option, it's high percentage, but it's risky, is as he starts fishing for that heel hook, I sit up and I start fishing for my own heel hook. I try and cross his foot from on my hip to across my body, and I sit up. Now he's got a heel hook, and I've got a heel hook. We're going in opposite ways. To apply it, Don wants to roll this way, I want to roll that way. Who's going to win? I don't know. I've got a toe-out rotation, so I'm in a better position biomechanically, but he started earlier, right? He started the attack first, and I'm responding to it. So I'd give you 50% chance of ripping his ankle apart and 50% chance of your ankle being ripped apart. However, it's still done, and it's yours to use if you want. Unlike the ankle lock, it's pretty hard to finish a heel hook with one arm. Another option I have is to sit up and control a wrist or an arm with both of my hands. Now Don is going to have a tougher time fishing for my heel hook, and if he does get the position, I push and pull as much as I can. This will go badly in a hurry if I let go, because now he's all hooked up and he can tap me in a second. But sometimes controlling an arm will give me enough time to think of another plan. So now we've covered 3 common, but I wouldn't say super reliable escapes to the heel hook. Sometimes it will get them to work, sometimes they won't work, but sometimes they're all you have. The most common escape by far is the spin. I'll start with a standing position and then we'll progress to the ground. I've talked about keeping the heel on the ground, keeping that foot flat. It's a little bit hard to do when you're crushing the head, but the worst thing is when I'm standing here and I'm up on the ball of my foot, especially if there's heel hooks allowed, because now he can go for that heel, he can even tap me out standing. Tap, tap, tap. Or he can make me fall. He can hook my heel and make me fall and now tap me out here. As soon as he manages to lift my heel off the ground and go for that, I have to spin. I have to either do a standing pirouette here, or I have to drop down on my hands, put my foot in his bum, and push off and continue spinning. I can't hang around. As soon as I feel him fishing for that heel hook, I have to do a standing pirouette or a sprinter's spin. On the ground, it looks similar. As he begins to apply it, I am going to make sure I know which way to spin. If I spin this way, I'm going to break my own knee and break my own ankle. I have to spin in the direction that he wants to apply it. He's going to roll this way to apply it. That's the way that I'm going to spin. If you don't know which way to spin, tap out. If you recognize the position, you've done leg locks enough to know what's coming. From here, I'm going to spin and try and come onto my hands and knees faster than him. This is like a sprinter getting ready to dash. I'm now going to dash. My foot is in his butt, and I'm going to kick out and dash away. I'm going to do that from the other side. We're here. I'm caught. He's switching at the heel hook. I have to go now. I spin and I push. You have to spin faster than he's turning. If we turn at the same speed, he's going to win. Sometimes, when you're doing the defense against the standing position, you're off balance. You're going to end up combining those two. As he lifts my heel, we're here, and I'm pushing away with my other foot to clear. Spinning is a really common defense. It's a very powerful defense, and it's a good one. What makes it complicated is the entrapment of the other legs. If he has my leg hooked here, for example, it's tough for me to go because I can't spin. He's controlling my feet. In order to do this, I have to act really fast and free my leg. Here, I have to bring my leg here. I have to get past this hook somehow and then spin. Clearing the hooks is essential if he's doing anything more than the super basic position here. Here, I don't have to worry about it. As soon as he starts tangling up this leg, I've got to take it a level further and clear those feet somehow. So if spins are so common and so effective, what can I do to re-counter that counter? The first answer is if I'm here and I'm going for a heel hook, if he's spinning, I want to spin with him. As he rolls, I want to stay with him. Maybe he's only got one spin in him. Maybe I'll figure out how to counter the spin, and I'll show you that in a second. Maybe we hit a wall or the ropes or the cage or a parked car or something, and that allows me now to sink the heel hook without him rolling again. So staying with him, attacking this leg, and I'm attacking him here, and he rolls, I roll with him. I don't want him to get ahead. Okay, great, we've hit the wall here. I pull and I arch and I apply the lock. It's not high tech, but you see that all the time. In order to stop him from spinning, if I hook him here, as he was doing to me, or if I hook him here by moving my butt to his butt, it's now very difficult for him to spin. Try and spin, Don. I just straighten my legs a bit. He's not going anywhere. Even if it's just here, by squeezing and extending a little bit with my inside leg, it shuts down his ability to roll. So I might use this leg initially, my inside leg, when I see he wants to roll. Then I'll move my butt towards him and hide my outside leg under there as well. Now there's no chance of him spinning at all. And we've got the heel hook right there. If he has spun and gotten ahead of you, sometimes you can convert to another leg lock. Let's say we're here and he spins, but he doesn't put his foot on my butt. And he just rotates and he hasn't gotten far enough away yet. If I haven't rolled, his knee is now facing my body. I can take it out and now I've got a knee bar. So initially his knee is facing the ceiling. We're here, but by rolling he's bringing this knee towards my belly. Perfect. I take it out, I triangle. If we keep on rolling, that's okay. And I apply the knee bar. That only works if he rolls, but doesn't also push away at the same time. Let's distinguish right now between a toe hold and a figure 4 straight ankle lock. When I'm doing a toe hold, I'm not hyperextending the foot straight here. This is actually a pretty weak leg lock with a figure 4, and I'm just extending his foot this way, almost as if I'm ankle locking it here. I've just changed everything around and I'm doing it straight. Yeah, you can get it. There's a lot of work. In a toe hold, I'm going to hold the toes. I don't hold the midfoot. I cup it so that my hand is lined up right with the end of his toes. I'm going to come around here and I'm going to bend his foot sideways. This is a true toe hold. From here, I'm going to put a circular and spiral motion of putting the big toe towards his bum. There. I'm not trying to straighten it out here. I'm just trying to take his big toe and bring it back towards him. That creates this compressive spiraling motion that's really, really tough on the outside of the ankle and is really tough to defend against. What it does is it changes his foot from being flat here to being rolled inwards, and that makes it weaker. So I can't really do it here, but if I roll it this way, put the big toe towards the bum, with a figure 4 grip, typically I'm going to have my thumbs with my other fingers. I'm not going to be going here. I wouldn't say I always do that, but most of the time you're here, and it allows you to come even further around the foot and use a very strong part of the hand to control his foot. I'm going to show you two techniques initially, two entries to the toe hold that you don't see a lot, but they're really good learning techniques. They're really good to illustrate how to do the toe hold properly. Let's say that I'm in the guard and I post the leg. Don turns his hip sideways, ready to do the standard scissor sweep. I'm going to come, I'm going to grab the toes with this hand. I'm going to come and figure 4 my hands here. Now I'm going to bring his big toe towards his butt, and if he rolls he can't roll back into me, he's going to roll down to his stomach. Other side, we're here. Don leaves his foot here sloppily. I control his toes. I come around, I figure 4. I bring my thumbs together and big toe towards the bum. That's not going to work too often in reality, but it's a good way to start. thinking about it. Another good training tool is I'm here, Don opens his legs. I'm going to grab the toe, and I'm going to, if Don is at 12 o'clock, I'm going to roll off to 9 o'clock. I'm going to go here. I'm going to bring both feet down, trapping him, and applying the toe hold right here. Again, no matter what position I'm in, I'm trying to bring his toe towards him and curl it. So the training rolling toe hold one more time from a slightly different angle. Don's here and he's sloppy. His legs are open. I am going to grab his toe here. I'm almost going to turn sideways to him here. I'm going to be doing this all fast. Then I'm going to shoulder roll over my left shoulder. I've got my right hand on his toes, my left arm wrapped, and I'm going to shoulder roll here. Now, I'm going to apply the toe hold. You'll see the rolling toe hold again and again in this section. Why would you roll when you're doing a toe hold? It seems like a pretty fancy thing to do. Well, there's a couple reasons why some of the most effective toe holds are rolling toe holds. Reason one is if I'm applying toe hold here, Don can see what's going on. He can reach up with his hands, he can reach up with his feet, he can grab me and pull him close. If I roll and we end up face down, he can't grab me anymore. He can't see what's going on. He can't really bring his feet into play if they're trapped here or here and apply the toe hold. Also, it's very discombobulating to him, especially if he's not a leg lock aficionado. All of a sudden, the guy in his guard has done a big somersault and what? Now my legs really hurt. I gotta tap out. My leg's really hurting. So the roll really adds to the technique, and I encourage you not to dismiss it. Here's one of my favorite entries to the toe hold, and it involves a roll. I'm going to start in the closed guard, and I'm going to stand up, put a knee in the middle, and pop him open. If he's an experienced grappler, he's going to go to a De La Riva hook, almost instinctively. It's amazing what percentage of people do this. Now, I don't want to stay here a long time. I'm going to control his other foot. This foot is hooking me here. I'm going to control his loose foot before he hides it. Now, I'm going to roll to 9 o'clock. He's at 12. I'm going to roll to 9. As I roll, I'm going to go over top and secure the figure 4 toe hold. I'm also going to try to triangle my legs here. This traps his foot and makes it really difficult for him to get out. Now I crank this towards his bum. From a different angle, we're here. I've popped it open. He pops this foot in. This is really tough to do if he's controlling my wrists. So I've got to get my wrists, either apply this before he attaches onto my wrist, or I have to be here and I have to grip fight to get my wrist free. The second my wrist is free and he's in the De La Riva, I throw myself into it. I really try and trap his foot here and apply the toe hold. Because his leg is trapped, it's very difficult for him to counter. He can't use this foot to kick it off. He can't come up to his feet. He's really in a difficult position. I'm going to show that one more time from this angle. Close guard. Come up. Pop the knee in. I feel that hook. Before he controls my wrist, I'm going to come here and crank it. Another rolling entry I like is against the half guard. If we're here and I'm in half guard, I have to be surreptitious here. I can't look down at the foot because he knows it's going to come. But if I can in the course of the scramble, look down and see that this foot is hanging out here, then I know I've got an entry. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and bring my knee up closer to him, my other knee. Then I grab the toe and I hurl myself over in a shoulder roll. Here and here. From another angle. We're here. He's hooking with the inside leg. But either through experience or by looking, I can tell, lift this leg up, that this leg isn't in a secure position. I'm going to bring this knee closer to him, my left knee, control the toe, and immediately roll. From here, I crank it. It's very similar to the De La Hiva roll, it's just from half guard. So one thing you're often told about making posture in the side mount is not to have your foot up here. You're told to put your foot here, foot to thigh. This is of course to prevent him from easily mounting. If he's just lying there with his legs flat, while you're there with your legs flat, it's easy for me to mount. But especially as you get tired, you can cross your ankle like that, and that's good for me, bad for him. Why is that? Because it makes him open up to the toe hold. I pop up to a reverse knee on belly, not a knee on belly here, but a reverse knee on belly. I grab the toe and I go here. Again, his toe is going to go basically towards his hips. Here, there. Whereas, if it was foot flat against the thigh, that would be a lot harder. I pop up here. First of all, it's hard to get this foot around, this hand around his foot. It's a lot easier for him to kick it straight. If he screws up and puts it here, you can catch that pretty easily. If he's your size or larger, this doesn't have a very high percentage of finishing it because he'll freak out and he's going to kick his leg straight. Depending on what happens as he kicks his leg straight, you can either swing to mount directly, or if you're hanging on here and he kicks, you can backspin to mount. I'm just going to show that from another angle here. So he's here, and I'm in side mount. I've noticed that he's cheating. He's tired. He's putting his foot in the wrong position. Pop up, reverse knee on belly. Here, here. If he kicks it straight, I can either come directly to mount, but it actually flows better as he kicks it to spin. So you see I'm almost in S mount. Or I could switch to regular mount. Or if I end up here and he bridges me off, I end up back in side control. Nothing lost. Not any the poorer. So give that a try. If I'm here and I'm attacking with a knee bar, it's pretty common for this guy to triangle his legs. Well, yeah. Now there are ways to uncross his ankles, but the other thing that you can do is I can secure his leg, it's already secured, and I can start attacking his far foot here. As you see, I was here, going for the knee bar. He protected his foot the other way. I'm going to cross my own ankles so that at least this leg is secure. Then I abandon ship and go for his other foot. And I start going for a toe hold here. If he rolls, or if we roll to our belly, this is looking pretty familiar. This is looking just like the entry against De La Hiva. So it's basically the same position. One more time. So we're here. Say I'm in half guard. Let's say I go for that knee bar. We're here. He crosses. There's lots of ways I can get his leg free for a knee bar, but let's say I want to finish him quickly. I fish for the other foot while triangling my legs here, pull it towards me, secure the toe hold. Again, the meat of my hand is right at the edge of his toes. Most common mistake probably is trying to do a toe hold down here. I want to be high on his toes. Second most common mistake is trying to do it straight. I want to twist it and put it towards his bum. If, as we roll, he kicks that leg free, I still have the knee bar here.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to get something. I'm going to get the toe hold. I'm going to get the knee bar on the leg I was initially attacking, toe hold on the other foot, or back to the knee bar on the original leg. Okay, so I just want to make the point that the toe hold is probably one of the most versatile submissions that you have, because you can apply it in scrambles, you can apply it from very strange positions where you have few, if any, other submissions available to you. Just to illustrate, say we're an X guard here. This foot is near my face, it's near my hand, I can apply a toe hold. Let's say I try sweeping him, but he bases out his hands. From here, I don't even have to move my feet. I can leave my feet where they are, bring my hand over, trap his foot, get my other hand on his foot, keep it tight, bring his toe towards his bum. If he falls forward here, I can keep my legs tied up in the X guard position. I can apply the lock. If he rolls here, and I end up in a really weird position, some people think it's weird, I like it, it's the reverse mount. We're here and here. And I fall sideways, let's just say I take both legs. I can cross my ankles, I can apply the toe hold here. I can apply the toe hold here. If I'm in the reverse mount and I split his legs, say I'm going for a knee bar, I can apply the toe hold on the foot that I've got, the foot of the leg that I've got between my legs here. If he kicks that off, I can apply the toe hold on the other foot. You can just hit it from a whole variety of positions and in a whole variety of scrambling situations. And finally, when we're talking about the toe hold, I should point out that you can hit it just about any time that you have a conventional leg lock. If I'm here and I'm attacking Richie's leg with an ankle lock or a heel hook or whatever I'm doing, if I pivot my body towards his foot a bit, from here, pivot it towards the foot and control the toes, I can apply a toe hold here. So any entry that you have into the conventional leg lock or heel hook can be converted with very little effort into a toe hold. If I'm here, maybe Richie spins, he's trying to spin, half spin. I don't really have a heel hook or an ankle lock, but I do have the toe hold. So there, keeping as much control as I can over his hips and his other leg, using my legs, but just applying that toe hold. Here are some options to counter the toe hold. If I can feel that foot being held on the toes, and I have the experience, I might try and control one wrist. It's basically impossible to get caught in a toe hold and your opponent only has one hand to apply it. But let's say I've screwed up. Let's say I didn't catch that and he's here. I want, as fast as possible, to bring my other foot into the equation. Because if I can get it in here and strip off his hand with my foot, then I've got a chance of getting out. So somehow I want to get this foot onto his wrists or his elbow or something to strip it out. It's not a very scientific solution, but if you keep on pumping his hands off your wrist, his hands off your foot rather, you'll have a very good chance of getting out. A similar option, as he goes for the toe hold, fall down to a roll, is for me to try and toe hold him. Lift this leg up, please. He's there and I'm here. Now it's just whoever's got a stronger pain tolerance and whoever's got a faster, more fast twitch muscle and more strength. It's not high tech, it's not a high percentage finish, but if he cranks it and I crank at the same time, who knows? Maybe I'll win, maybe I'll get out. If I'm playing De La Riva guard, I try to control a wrist. Even without the gi, I'm trying to control the wrist here. If I let go, I'm on high alert for this toe hold. As he starts going for it, stop. I'm not even trying to counter this foot being held. I'm trying to free my other leg. So as he rolls, I pull that leg out right to my chest. At least this way, he doesn't have it entangled. Now, if he's trying to force it here, I can use my other foot to kick it free, or I can come up to the top, and I'm in a much, much better position. So if we do it again from this angle, we're here, I'm applying the De La Riva guard, he gets his wrist free and he rolls. I gotta pull my leg out. Not the leg that he's locking, but my other leg, because I do not want it trapped between his legs. Now I can either kick it free, or I can come up. I have a fighting chance to survive that toe hold. So that's a bit of a mental leap you have to make to ignoring the foot that's trapped and trying to concentrate on the foot that isn't being attacked. If you're using half guard and your opponent is setting up for a toe hold, they often look. This should be your first clue that you're in danger. At this point, you have several options. You can try crossing your ankles, and that makes it a lot harder for him to get at them. Or, I prefer to insert it into half butterfly. Here, he can't apply a toe hold on this leg. But let's say you screw up. He looks and he rolls right away. What I have to do is I have to put on the boot, and I roll with him. Keep the grip. I come up to him, and I cross face. Let me show that without a partner, please. I'm here in half guard, and he's going to apply a rolling toe hold on this foot. The second he touches it, I push it in, like I'm putting on the boot, and rotate the foot out. As we roll, I keep that foot fully flexed, and I come up to the top, keeping this leg straight and fully flexed. Now, I try and catch the cross face and peel his head away from my foot. Can you do that again, please, Don? So we're here. Oh no, he's going for the toe hold. Put on the boot, come to the top. Keep his leg straight. Try and peel this off. This isn't a great position. I can get caught in lots of other things. He can sweep me. Sweep me, Don. But at least he didn't tap me with the toe hold.